Welcome back to another Plasticon review. Today we're going to cover Liokaiser, Micromaster style. Here is Liokaiser in his full-on robot mode. The reason I am doing it from this point and going in reverse because it's just easier to take him apart than it is actually putting him together. If you guys didn't know, this is a custom I have created. I've done this out of some Micromasters and smaller knockoff bits and pieces that I've found throughout the years, so I'm going to get into that. This is actually 8 robots to combine together to make this version of Liokaiser. He's got all 7 of the original Liokaiser guys, and the inner torso is actually Overlord. This is my Generation 2 version of Liokaiser, which I think it looks pretty fantastic. Getting into some of the details he's got, and he is a little flimsy, but that's okay. He does happen to have his iconic type of helmet without the huge pointy ears. He's got little tiny pointy ears, and oh, there we go. That's probably one reason I'm going to show it to you this way. Let you guys go ahead and take a look at the head detail here while I try to put the arm here back on. And these do peg in better, I just haven't pushed them in really far. This front chest piece here does tend to pop off pretty easily, and that's why I kind of have to just be really careful with him. He's primarily just a display piece, but I do play with him every now and then. I'll just take him apart and play with all the individual robots, because everything here robot-wise is solid. It's just the combined mode that's a little clumsy. But that isn't any fault of the toy, it's a fault of my engineering here. Let's see. As I keep popping parts off. Anyway, take a look at his head sculpt. He's got a pretty cool head sculpt. He's got the Superior head sculpt without the huge ridge and the huge horns. Looks really good. He's got the kind of a yellowish green visor going on there. It's a little bit of gold actually, but it's kind of cool. I don't mind it. It does have a sheen to him, and I'm just going to go ahead and take the center guy off, and one of his legs kind of just popped off when I sat him down. So, you know, this is going to happen, especially with the cheaper knockoff versions of some of these toys. And I tend to try to use them more or less for customizing, because it's just more affordable, and I don't want to ruin a bunch of stuff that's actually official out there for you guys, since some collectors will actually want that. So, but I'll try to shove this in here. There we go. There we go. And he actually doesn't look bad even without this little guy here attached. I think he looks pretty cool. I'm really into what he looks like, and I'm honestly this is the first time I've actually done an entire full-on custom combiner that actually not supposed to attach in certain ways. I've done custom combiners in the past, but not to this extent. But anyway, let's go ahead and break him down into his smaller components so it's easier for you to actually look at. One thing I did want to note before I started actually completely pulling him apart is I actually do have the other 2 members. They just kind of clamp onto the back of him. I just didn't want any members being left out, and that's why I've got the 2 tank guys just kind of strapped to his back, which is fine because this gives him armament in the back and allows him to use, you know, missile spamming and other guns. So that's kind of just what I've done there. Taking a look at Overlord. This is the central body. It's basically Superior. Actually, Silverbolt is the mold, and this is the more, I'd say, downsized, less transformable version that they had out there. He actually kind of more or less transforms exactly like the original toy, so it doesn't really have a whole lot of changes to it. just to show you guys, I have kind of painted the face up, giving kind of that silver with a bit of the blue eyes. It's kind of hard to get down in there, but I did the best I could do there. I added a bit of torso detail, and I actually don't mind this kind of wash looking like this because it kind of gives him a kind of a older stance, like he's seen some stuff kind of thing, and it's really interesting. I do like it. I like the silver on him because the silver really pops. And he's got his whole backpack, which isn't very intrusive, and he also has his iconic gun done up in black and purple to kind of invoke the tank mode, because he doesn't actually have the tank mode, he only has the jet mode, which is fine. So I'm going to set this to the side. Going into transforming Overlord here. He's very simple. If you guys have ever transformed a Silver Bolt before, it's the same transformation. First you're going to do is flip the head down, because it's on like a, kind of like a little pivot. And then you'll flip this portion here over. And then this will slide forward. And it will actually lock the nose cone in place. And I'll flip the not the legs, the arms in. His fists do not collapse on this version, so. And I always fold in these here, and then spin these around. And then you're able to fully collapse these in onto the rest of the robot. Or jet mode, I should say. And this right here is separate, so it will spin separately. So that allows you to put him into his jet mode. And you got a little landing gear here that'll come down. It's kind of cool. He actually has a rolling landing gear as well, just on the front, not on the back. If you notice, it doesn't actually have the huge tail fin like Silver Bolt's got. Notice he's got the black all over the top and the white on the bottom, just to kind of show that off. Now the gun itself can actually plug directly here into the center portion, so that way you've got a very successful little jet, which, like I said, forms the torso of the whole robot, and he's a really successful little jet by himself, and not to mention a successful little robot by himself as well, not to mention being a combiner. Moving on to the centerpiece. The centerpiece is Jaguar. And here's Jaguar in his rocket truck mode. The Jeep that he used to be had rockets, so I chose to use a rocket truck. And this is a Micromaster. I love the size of these guys. That's one thing I do like about this set, is the size. It's easy for me to display and it doesn't take up my entire shelf. But it's got this little rocket thing here that'll go back and forth. It's got lots of molded detail in there. Kind of insane how much detail he actually has. And tiny little doors, which kind of tells you this guy probably would have been huge. This here will just fold up, and you just fold these out just like Micromasters do. And push his arms forward, and then you get to standing up. And yep. He's kind of back heavy. That's what's kind of crazy about him. If you have that many problems, you can sometimes stand him like this if you need to, but it's kind of curly, kind of crazy looking. I'd rather just kind of stand him like this. And there you go. You got Jaguar in his robot mode. He looks really cool. I do like the silver. The silver really pops. He's got a nice little face sculpt in there. His eyes are kind of painted green. It's really neat. He's got a really cool look, and I'm really into him. It's definitely pretty cool. And I do like his vehicle mode. His vehicle mode is pretty nice. Let's take a look at the gold plastic guy of the group. That would be Kill Bison. And he is obviously just a tank. He's It's got a lot of detail, and it's really small. I do like how small this guy is. Pretty perfect. The tank will turn 360 degrees, so you can turn it completely around, which is nice. And it will not fall off because it's actually screwed in, so you don't have to worry about that disconnecting. I usually turn this to the side, goes transformation, and then before I do all that, because I tend to get ahead of myself on this part, move these little arms forward, and then move his legs over here, and then I usually just put his guns sticking out. He's got some really long arms, which is kind of funny, but he's not terrible. He's a really cool looking little guy. Okay, he's got like that red visor going on in there, and he's got his little Decepticon emblem just showing. He's a pretty successful little dude, and he stands up just fine next to his little counterpart here. I think they look really good together. I'm really into this. It's cool. Let's take a look at the other tank, Drill Horn. I know Drill Horn should be a drill tank. Well, he's got huge missiles here, so why couldn't he use the missiles just to blow holes in the ground, or, I don't know, blow holes in his opponent? You know, drilling holes with missiles. It works. I think it's cool. It's got a really, really cool, it's got this, like, nice silver down here with this blue. It's got his Decepticon emblem right there, and this thing here does move 360 degrees. This one here actually is removable. You can pull this portion here off if you wanted to, which you have to kind of lift it up a little bit for the transformation, but that's what I tend to do, is just kind of move it a little bit just to get it out of the way. And just flip his legs out, and then I'll put this back into its seated position, and then just move his little arms forward. And then there you go, you have Drill Horn in his robot mode, and I think it looks fantastic. I love this silver. It's really cool. It just really pops on him. I think he's one of the cooler ones a lot. I'm really into the tiny Transformers, if you hadn't noticed. It's just cool having a tiny version of Liokaiser and these guys all be able to combine together and, you know, successfully pull it off. And like I said, trying to handle him in combined mode, he's a bit fragile, but that's okay, because each individual robot's pretty solid, so you don't have to worry about any breakage. It's just, he's kind of flimsy, held together, but that's okay. I might come up with a better way of putting Jaguar and the chess piece, but let's move on to the next one. Let's take a look here at Skyhawk. Skyhawk's really cool. He is basically the Firefly mode, and he's pretty cool. I do like him a lot. He's obviously got his whole jet thing here on the back. And I know it's probably not coming off the camera very good, but this is kind of a pinkish, pearlescent color I've used on him. It's really difficult to film certain colors, but I don't know if you guys can see that, but he's very pinkish pearlescent. I love the color on him, and in real life, like seeing him in person, he looks really cool. He is kind of squat because the legs do not extend or go down, but that's okay. This happened to have been one of the ones I had to do probably the biggest modification to, because the original toy, it's permanently extended. So I had to cut out the permanent extension legs and actually sandwich him back down. So that way he actually fit with the rest of the group. Otherwise he looked like a disconjointed jet. It just didn't look right. But let's go ahead and transform him real quick, and I'll show you guys the vehicle mode. He uses his little arms, just push in like that. And the head, by the way, is positionable, so you could use him for an arm if you wanted to, or a leg, which is kind of nice. And then move this down, and then move this over here. Let's see if I can get this to squish in. There it goes. And trying to get this to plug in sometimes, kind of a pain. I'm not going to force it too much. But there you go. There's Skyhawk in his F4 Phantom mode, which is pretty cool. I do know Skyhawk was not an F4 Phantom, he was more of a MiG, but that's okay. I actually like this tiny size, and you can really tell how that pearlescent color comes off when you actually get him into jet mode. It really kind of pops. But he doesn't have the landing gear that comes down or anything. All the landing gear is already molded here, so it's fine. It works really well. Anyway, let's move on to the next one. The next one is Hellbat. And Hellbat is really cool. I like how he's got the silver eyes with the red face and the red chest going on. It just works really, really well for him. This blue here kind of has a bit of a pearlescent color to it, and that's one kind of theme I tried to give the entire thing, was a bit of a sheen to everything, because I wanted everything to kind of have that G2 glamorous look, and I didn't want to completely change the colors of everybody, but I wanted them to still stick out, and that's why a lot of them have a bit of a metallic look versus being just straight repaint, recolor, or whatever. And I also didn't want to look like the Rescue Force, because that was an Autobot. This is a Decepticon. I wanted to stick that way. But he's pretty neat. Let's go ahead and transform him real quick. His little arms just kind of flip in. And by the way, these arms only go in and out. They do not go forward. So he's kind of got this dweeb mode where his arms just kind of flap. So he can do snow angels if you wanted him to. I mean, that's one thing you can get him to do. It's kind of funny. Yeah, that's as far as the arms move on him. It would have been nice to see these actually move forward, but that's really difficult to do, especially at the size that they did this. And you got to think, this is a budget toy, so not a big deal. So I'll fold these in, and then put down his cockpit, and fold down the wings, and then fold out the back. And here we go, we have our F-16 Falcon. And yes, I know he wasn't a Falcon. I know you guys out there are like, no, he was like, you know, a Euro fighter and stuff like that. I get it. But this one here is the Falcon. And he's pretty cool. I do like him. You can really see that shimmer I got going on with that blue. The blue really picks up really well for some reason. I think it looks really neat. He's got all the molded landing gear here and here. It would have been nice to have a bit of a molded landing gear here, but it doesn't, because this actually will not flip forward. This is in a fixed position. So he has to be stuck as a leg. But he's pretty neat. So let's move on to yet another one, because you know, there's a lot. And here is Liokaiser. Liokaiser's still got his white and gold going on there with a little bit of red on his chest, which is pretty neat. Kind of breaks it up. He's got a bit of a red face there as well. And he's just a little squat dude. That's what he is. Just like the rest of the little jet guys. And I don't mind that. It doesn't really bother me. I'm really into the tiny Transformers anyway, like I said, and these are just fine for me. They work, and that's all I really wanted, was a representation of them. And I know there's a knockoff out there of this entire set, but it's gone for astronomical amount of money, and I am not going to pay that kind of cash for something that relatively was a $20 toy. I wouldn't even a $20 toy. It was actually a $10 toy there for a long time. But, you know, I'm not going to go back and try to find something like that. So I decided to make Liokaiser just like this. And I think he looks pretty neat. He's not terrible. He's got this kind of a green shimmery look to him. And he's pretty neat. So let's go ahead and put him into his jet mode. These arms here just kind of push in. This will kind of push up and over the head a little bit. Now the head on this is very temperamental, because when I first got it, the head was actually snapped off, so I had to fix that. So I had to be very delicate with that part. And flip these down, and then move down the tail. And now he's an F-15 Strike Eagle. Yes, I know he was an F-14 Tomcat. I know he's not a F-15. But you know what? I think this actually works really well for him. He's got the black wings. And it kind of looks like a little bit like Acid Storm, which is kind of cool. But honestly, I don't mind it. I think it's neat. I think it works. And that's just me. But, you know, let's move on to yet the very last one. And here's the last one. And everybody's like, what is this guy? This is Cobra. This is the missing member of the team. He's come back as a kind of a metallic, I'd say almost like a maroonish purple. And he's got a bit of a metallic there going on with the black on the back too. It's kind of hard to see, but it is there. There is a metallic sheen to it. There he is in robot mode, and he's got this little peg thing here that pops out in the front. Doesn't need a whole lot of detail. He's actually got his face kind of painted in there because this is just permanently attached and it doesn't move. He does have moving arms. He can move back and forth. And if you guys didn't know, I actually had to salvage this guy. This guy was missing the entire tail end. So I took the bit that I had from Soul Rule and turned it into a kind of a Cobra hood for him. Because, you know, his name's Cobra. I figured it would work. And he's one of those single rotor helicopters. So he has a very simple transformation. Move these feet down like this. And then this will actually slide down. It's kind of hard to do, but it will do it. Gotta be kind of careful with it. And then collapse this in. And then move these bits here down. And then this whole portion here will actually rotate all the way around. It's basically the vortex mold. And then there you go. Now he's a squat little single rotor helicopter. And these actually do exist. It's kind of cool. I decided to take some creative liberties and do this, and I think it turned out really well. I actually like the way this slopes down where it almost makes like a third gear form too, which is cool. And I think it looks really neat. Really into him. He's probably the one that really shines out of the whole group just because he's so unique compared to the rest of them. I really did like Cobra, and Cobra honestly should have gotten a figure back in the day, but he never did. But I think it's neat that we actually now have the full team all together. Speaking of which, take a look at the entire group as a whole. I think it looks really nice together. This really kind of fits the whole motif that Liokaiser had. And I like the fact that I've integrated good old Overlord into an entire combiner, because this kind of just makes sense with everything that went on in Generation 2. Some things were kind of weird and strange, and I really did like the idea of just bringing these guys into it, but them not being the huge combiner that they were, but it also becoming really cool looking as a combiner in its own right. The headpiece, like I said, I had to do a little bit of modification to, which turned out really cool. I think I did a really good job with it, because it was really difficult actually to do some of this stuff here, and the fact that this green actually matches the green here works very well. Now you guys are probably wondering, how did you get him to stand up? And that is these are the two little feet plate that I actually built for him, so that way the Superion, aka Liokaiser parts, will actually plug into these. But he did have those as well. And I really haven't figured out a way to integrate these into the vehicle modes yet. Same thing with the fists, and it's kind of funny because I have two right fists, but you know, I just turn one upside down and it's fine. This side here doesn't actually have a hole drilled in it, but I was like, you know what, he's normally only just going to hold the gun, he isn't going to hold anything else in the hand, so that's fine. But I did have two different fists, but that's fine because he's a very asymmetrical robot anyway. He's not really a symmetrical robot, never really was. Even the original one, he was kind of just all over the place with just the design alone. So I wanted to show this whole thing off to you guys because it's probably one of the cooler customs I've done, and probably one of the more difficult ones for me to accomplish, considering I had to really do a lot of like imagining here to make this actually work the way I wanted it to work, because I wanted all of them to fit, but I didn't want to go out and buy a bunch of other Transformers to do this with, and I had all these crazy weird knockoffs, and some of these came in a crazy lot that I bought a long time ago, and some of them were just really bad shape. Like I said, his head was broken, He was missing part of his part. This guy here was permanently extended. And honestly, it just didn't look correct. It didn't actually have all the feet plates. I didn't actually have the real feet plates. The only thing I had really was the fist. And that's fine. You know, all the parts were there, but it all came in a huge lot of knockoffs that I got. So I decided to reimagine it and turn it into this. So you guys let me know what you think, and I will end up doing more content like this in the future. Please like, share, subscribe, and, you know, check out my Patreon, because I do have a Patreon. I do have YouTube membership turned on, so that way, you know, we can keep funding the channel, and I can keep doing crazy stuff like this to show you guys what you're able to do with even like the craziest, most weirdest, obscure knockoffs that are out there. This has been Plasticon. This is me signing off. Peace out, y'all. See you around. Bye.